That's exactly the way it should be. Why is Jeff frozen?
What's up, everyone? Jordan Angeli here. Welcome to NWSL Live here Tuesdays, 5 p.m. on Twitch. It's so good to see everybody, and we've got a first week of NWSL 2021 regular season to talk about. And as always, I am going to be joined by Jeff Kassouf and Lori Lindsey to talk through not only what happened over the weekend, but also we've got a guest today. We've got Victoria Pickett from Kansas City who's going to be joining us. And of course, we've got Marisa Pilla coming on later in the show. So a lot to get to today. Lori, Jeff, how are you guys?
Good.
I,
How are
I
you?
can't possibly be as good as you, Jordan.
I know the elephant in the room, you guys, is another national championship for Santa Clara last night. I know Lori was on the broadcast, but I actually think you saw me more than you saw Lori because I clearly was screaming, yelling, losing my voice, cheering for my alma mater. It was a fun game last night, huh, Lori?
Oh yeah, it was so fun, and we've all been talking about it for a bit now, but having fans back in the stadium, even if it's limited capacity, it's so fun and like the energy that everybody needs. And you were all certainly the 12th player in that stadium for Santa Clara, so it's fun. It's fun to be over there with you all.
Oh my God. Yeah, Jeff, there was some good Jordan facials on the TV. I don't know, did you have a favorite one where you're just cracking up at
No,
me
I
yelling
mean,
something?
I don't know if Lori was in the camera person's ear or what, but we had like every 3 minutes we had you, Brandy, and Allie were front and center, just screaming. It was a good. It was like a
So
second
funny.
screen experience.
Well, we had gotten
Right,
word. I think
exactly.
like you and Allie had said, or whoever, that there was going to be and Danielle Slayton texted us too. I don't know, maybe Saturday, that there's going to be a good contingency coming. And then when we talked to Jerry leading up to the game, he's like, "Yeah, 30 or 40 alumni, couple hundred, just some families." We're like, "This is amazing!" So we like made a
Yeah.
point of like knowing exactly where you all were.
Yeah. So that's all our NCAA national championship talk, but we did have to get in there. It was the elephant in the room. You hear it in my voice today, but hopefully my voice is my only problem and my internet stays good. But over the weekend, we got to see first action 2021 regular season in NWSL, and we're going to go quickly through some of the scores, the scoreboard, and really break down one game. So Racing Louisville hosted Kansas City in the first game of the weekend. It was a 0-0 draw. It was the first game for both of these teams in regular season action. A lot more to come for both of them. Then Gotham took down Houston Dash 1-0 on a Midge Purse goal. Good celebration for her on that one. OL Reign drew North Carolina 0-0. Orlando Pride tied Washington Spirit. A goal from Alex Morgan and a goal from Ashley Hatch. I loved that Hatch goal. What a fun little header that she had. And the last game that we are going to talk about, you guys, is this Chicago Red Stars Portland Thorns game because, oh my goodness, there were goals. It was 5 goals, one from Sinclair, two from Smith. Lucy got a goal, and of course, there was an own goal to start it all off. So I'm going to go to you first, Jeff. We got a couple minutes here to wrap this whole one up. What's going on in Chicago, Jeff? Let me know. What's happening?
The inside scoop. Well, look, I think we talked about it a little bit during the Challenge Cup that I don't think it's any secret that the Red Stars are trying to figure out where is that offensive production going to come from, and that plan has been by committee to a degree. And I think you look at the 5-0 score line. That's not the only thing, and maybe not the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, on the day, defensively obvious. I don't think you need to look too much further than the score line, but I just thought it was honestly one of the flatter performances that I can remember from that team specifically. And in some ways, obviously, that's not the type of result even for a team that's bad, which I wouldn't necessarily put them in that category. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not the type of result that's going to happen every week.
Right.
But in terms of bigger picture questions, I do think there are a fair amount. A lot of teams in this league in transition in different ways, and that's one of them. And offensively, that needs to be figured out. And I think defensively, obviously, I think Rory Dame said post game it wasn't so much that things had to be better; they had to be totally different. And I think maybe that hits on a bigger picture question of how they're going to line up, what they need from their
Yeah.
personnel.
Yeah. So maybe just a blip in the radar there for Chicago Red Stars with that result for them. Of course, there were some tough moments. That one with Julie Ertz in the first half was something that we hope that she's doing all right. And we don't have any updates. I know people are probably asking in the chat. No updates there quite yet, and you'll probably know when we know. Lori, on the other side of things, so Sophia Smith, she causes the own goal. She gets two for herself. She's found her groove. It's not as if she wasn't creating chances in the Challenge Cup. She was. But what's the difference now?
Well, I think one, it goes back to Portland in general as a whole are performing on all cylinders in an early stage of this season. First, the Challenge Cup, as we saw them win over a week ago, and then obviously coming out with this huge result, 5-0 versus Chicago. So I think she benefits from that. I think she benefits from the players, no doubt, behind her, world-class players in Sinclair, Horan, Crystal Dunn, and the pressure that they put on, and almost the pressure that they alleviate from her as well, because there's going to be goals from many different aspects, and she's not the only one that has to be relied upon. But then also, I think she's benefiting from minutes played. She has some confidence under her belt from getting some minutes with the women's national team, and knowing that there's still a chance for her to make that roster and needing to perform well in these games. And then also, I think there's a couple different things too. It's just more time in NWSL, and then the naivety of playing as well.
Yeah.
I think there's some players that are going to come in and knowing that they have to perform, knowing that they have to score goals, and that is going to weigh on them big time. And then NWSL leading up to the Olympic roster, and there's going to be a young player like Sophia Smith that's going to be able to step out in the field and say, "Hey, listen, I have nothing to lose." And I think that is what we're seeing from this young player. And we're seeing some of her attributes, whether it's speed, her ability on the ball, and then finishing start to take shape.
Gosh, that's such a life of a goal scorer, right? Just the pressure to score, and then it weighs on you, and then you let it go, and you can score, and you gain confidence. It's this roller coaster, and maybe fortunately for her, she had a little bit of that in the Challenge Cup, and now going into season, she maybe kicked it off and can feel more confidence with all those things that you just mentioned on the line going forward into the summer. All right, you guys, that was a quick recap because we've got a great guest. Talk about Olympics, talk about prospects going there. We've got Victoria Pickett from Kansas City. She is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. We'll be back after this quick commercial break with Victoria Pickett.
You all have to be
Welcome back to NWSL Live. Jordan Angeli here, and I am excited to bring in one of the newest players in NWSL, not only a rookie, but also in one of the newest franchises in Kansas City. We are welcomed now by Canadian international Victoria Pickett. How are you, Victoria?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. You've got the whole get up. You're still in your jersey. You must have just had training. Tell us what today was, because I don't think that's your couch. That's not the background you have behind your couch, is it? I don't know. Maybe.
It's not. However, I would love this in my own place, but no,
Okay.
I just love Kansas City that much. No, today we had training, and then right after that, had a forwards meeting, which sometimes I'm a part of, so I decided to get in on that one. Came back from lift, and now I'm here talking to you guys. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. We've got a lot to get into, and I'll let Lori go next. But the first thing that I wanted to ask you is, I got to talk to you just a couple months ago. It was during the draft. You were sitting at home with your family. I think it was your mom and your dad and your brother. Is that correct?
It was, yes.
Yes. When I reflect back on that day, I remember those moments with the families. When you reflect back, what does that day mean to you, and what was it like to experience that with your family?
So surreal, especially because I truly did not think I was going to get picked up, partially because of my injury that had caused me to miss out more or less like 2 years. So I figured, what coach would be willing to take a chance on a player like me? And I chatted with Coach Williams actually like the day before, and he was saying like, "Oh, would you be interested in coming to Kansas City?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." But it's funny because I kind of took it with a grain of salt just because I figured he's chatting with all these other players. Like, what are the chances that they're actually going to call me? So yeah, definitely such a surreal feeling, but like couldn't be happier. And to be able to spend it with my family, especially during these times with the pandemic and everything, it was like a dream come true. So I absolutely loved it.
Well, it's funny how life works then, because you're not sure you're going to get picked up. You do get picked up, and then you're one of the major bright spots in terms of your Kansas City team, but also in the rookies in general in the Challenge Cup and in the early stages of this 2021 season. So talk to us what it's been like, what are you loving about Kansas City, what are you loving about your first year so far, and the challenges that it's presented.
Yeah, the transition's actually been very smooth. I think I had this preconceived notion that because I'm a rookie coming out from college, I'm with teammates that are already established in the league or that have families that are moms and everything. So it's like I thought there was going to be some more social differences, but I found it was actually wonderful. Like they welcomed me with open arms, and not only my teammates, but like the people of Kansas City, the coaching staff. Even though it's a new team and everything, new ownership group, new coaching staff again, it's been great, and like I'm just so happy to be able to say I'm representing Kansas City and everything. So yeah, it's been wonderful in that sense, and then obviously soccer has been great as well. This is a dream that I've been chasing since I was like 4 years old. So to be able to say that this is my career is very surreal. It's weird, but I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the
No, we
change
get it.
of
It's not weird. We get it.
Yeah.
but like just the change of pace and everything. I always had these expectations that it's going to be faster and everything like that. But like it's a lot faster, it's a lot more intense, and a lot more is demanded out of you. But it's great. I love the environment here.
Well, I mean, it seems like you've adjusted pretty well so far, Victoria, and it's cool that you mentioned some of those things, because I think it's been like traditionally it's obviously situational, but it's not always the case that rookies can just step right into a situation in the league. I think there's usually that kind of adjustment period. But I've had fun watching you so far with, especially on the dribble. I was tweeting this on the weekend, like it was giving me a little bit of a throwback to like Erica Timrak, rookie Kansas City, a little bit of parallels, just get the ball turn, and you want to face up and and make something happen. And that was that's a high bar. The Holiday Timrack combo, from 13 there. But like, I mean, just is that something for viewers who are maybe just seeing you for the first time? Is that like part of a big staple of your game is wanting to be on the dribble 1v1, or is that something that you've kind of recently embraced?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for that comparison. Like, those people are legends, so to be, even somewhat associated with them is honestly very nice. So making my head get a little bigger. But no, I appreciate that. But yeah, I think I've always loved being able to dribble. I think it's like a great way to get on the attack, and I love creative players and everything, like Messi and my like former teammate Rose Lavelle, So it's like I've always loved being able to dribble. I think it's something I'm strong at, and it's also something that the coaching staff and my teammates are also confident in me and just my ability to do that. So yeah, I think I'd like to continue doing that, and I guess adding a little bit of flair, if you can
A
call
couple
it that.
nutmegs or
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Cool.
can call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm learning from Mariana Laurquette on my team.
Yeah.
She's always
Yeah.
making people in practice. I'm like, ugh, gotta show
Don't
me.
be me next.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can play a variety of positions, and earlier in this just conversation you were talking about how you go to the forwards meetings sometimes too, like you're part of all different meetings. What do you prefer? What's your position of preference, and what do you like about this team and playing that position and the combinations that you can foresee going forward, and the movement that you just mentioned some really quality players that you get to play around?
Yeah, absolutely. I like playing the 8 just because I'm more central. I feel like I can distribute a little bit better. I'm on the ball a little bit more. I can get in the attack a little bit more. So I would say I prefer the 8, but I'm also fine with being the wide forward, the 7 or 11, because kind of same thing. You're on the attack and everything. But I think it also just helps in my skill set, in that like I can be a more versatile player, and when I'm the 8, I can understand what the 7 or 11 needs, and vice versa. So yeah, it's been good.
So, major tournament coming up at the end of the summer, and this could be one of those tournaments. And this could be your first major tournament. Let's talk about that journey with Canada, and how you're feeling that maybe the NWSL is helping prepare you for that, and what excites you.
Yeah, to be considered on the radar of the senior national team is always a huge honor. To represent your country, it's huge, and again, one of my lifelong dreams and everything. So yeah, to see that it might be a potential possibility is very exciting. But yeah, I started out in the system when I was 15. I was 15 years old, and I had made the U17 team, so I was playing with Kadisha Buchanan, Ashley Lawrence, and all of the big wigs over there. But so I was playing with them, and that was an awesome experience as a younger player, being able to get to know the system and everything, and just what the identity of Canada, the CSA, Canada Soccer Association. But eventually, I was able to get onto the U20 teams, which was great. Was able to participate in the World Cups there as well, and I think those really just helped in my development. I've always been considered a fullback, or more so a wide player for them, which honestly isn't my favorite position, just because I won't lie, I don't think I'm the best at defending. But it's one of those things where you have to kind of take your role and do the best that you can at it, which has been great. And when I was at the camp with Desiree Scott and the rest of the national team, it was really great just to see Bev Priestman and her coaching staff and what they expect of the players, and just that level intensity again is just that much higher. So it's great, and yeah, hopefully I get called into camp and I'm considered. But right now I'm just loving my current position. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit, maybe off the field, or rewind it back a little bit, I guess, because you mentioned playing with Rose Lavelle and being a Badger, and you also mentioned having that knee injury as well. What I feel like we've had players on this show that have had injuries that we've talked to, how that's kind of shaped them. What is how has that kind of shaped you, I guess, in your journey here, which is still pretty young in the professional sense?
Yeah, it's definitely changed me. I think I would do myself an injustice if I had said that it really wasn't that big of a deal. But this injury truly did change my life. But I think it was for the better. It's made me realize that I have other identities outside of just soccer. But being away from it made me, I think, want to attain my goals of becoming a professional soccer player, of becoming hopefully one day a star for Canada soccer and everything. Just that much more desirable for me. But yeah, it was definitely hard to get through because I felt like I was on a really good trajectory, and that coaches were looking at me. The NWSL seemed like a very possible idea, and then just with this one single moment, all of it feeling like it just crashed and imploded. So yeah, it was definitely difficult, to say the least, to get through. But with the help of my teammates and coaching staff and the medical staff at Wisconsin, like, I truly can say I wouldn't be in this position if it weren't for them. So yeah, it's also just made me like that much more grateful for soccer as well. Just because when I was away from it for over a year and a bit, like a year and 9 months. So yeah, to come back and be able to finally live out my dream, it's been great. So
Yeah. And we're happy that, that journey took you back to feeling like you can participate and play at the level that maybe is even higher than you were before, because it's such a joy to have you in NWSL. And you talk about what you learned about yourself in that process of recovery from a major injury. What helped you through it? What was your motivation, and how have you used that to now? I think you started a podcast to talk about some of these things, and tell everybody about what you're doing there.
yeah, so my podcast is called Define the Situation, which, for those that maybe have watched the Louisville game, I know Marisa touched up on it, but I have it tattooed on my arm. It says Define the Situation, which is just a story about my mom, basically, who had stage 4 breast cancer. And I had never seen her cry or be upset about her situation, or show any sort of despondency or anything like that. So I didn't really understand how someone could be so strong through something so disastrous, honestly. So I remember asking her when I was going through my knee situation, like, how did you pull through? Because I really feel like my life is just going downhill right now. And she had said that, it's not the situation that defines your character, it's how you define the situation that does. She's like, I'm not a victim of cancer. Yes, I'm just a person that happens to have cancer, but from it, I've realized that I'm strong, I'm courageous, I'm determined, and all these other positive things that she's derived from something so negative. So I think just having that mentality really helped me out, and realize that this is only temporary, that I can get through it, and it's only a matter of me having the willingness to push through, and just have that. But yeah, sorry, that's a little caveat
That's
there.
great. Don't be sorry. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the podcast basically revolves around student athletes that have gone through similar adversities, whether it's mental health or just outside factors that contribute to the whole student athlete, is just what it's basically discussing. So how they define their situation, essentially.
That's great.
Thanks.
Have you had some cool conversations already?
Yes. So I've been able to chat with some friends and everything. And funny enough, there's a center called the Layla Center here in Kansas City, and I was doing my cryo, and I was chatting with Joe Mays, who is an NFL player and everything, and he was talking to me about his story just yesterday. I'm like, you know what? You would be great if you were to be on my podcast. So he was all for it. So I was like,
Good.
lovely. So yeah, it'll be
Cool.
nice to have more people, and I hope a lot of viewers or listeners can really attach to some of the stories and really relate to them. So
That's awesome.
yeah, thanks.
All right, one last question for me, then we'll do a little rapid fire and kind of get out of here. But this all came together really quick, Victoria. We talked to Hugh Williams, I believe, before the first games, and he said it was really a month, or 4 months, sorry, from when the franchise was set in Kansas City to the first game. Tell me what you like about this organization, the ownership, and the ambitions of the club. Tell everybody watching why they should be invested in Kansas City.
Yeah, I think based off what you said, just the ambition and the desire to show that Kansas City really does have something to offer, not only just from a soccer perspective, but just a community as a whole. And I think that's what's so great about the ownership is that they're coming to our practices and they're chatting with us and everything. So there's 100% invested, and it's really nice as a player to see these people so interested in women's soccer and developing it in Kansas City and everything, and to be a part of it is also super special. But yeah, I think that just the entire club is so bought into the idea of just trying to be the best that they can be, and we really want to make a mark in the NWSL. And with the players that we have here, I truly do think we can make a mark in everything. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, clip it, send it out, support Kansas City. There's your little pitch, Victoria, for everyone to support the team. Okay, do you have enough time? Really quick, rapid fire. We've got a few questions for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Lori, you want to get us started?
If you could play another sport, what would it be?
Basketball.
Okay, I like it.
Yep.
Who's next? Jordy, Jeff. Go.
Okay, I'll go. Best restaurant you've been to in Kansas City so far?
Oh my gosh, Joe's Barbecue. I heard
we're there. We need to go.
Is really good, but when I tried it, it's next level, and the stuff changed my life. It's delicious. So good.
I love it.
How about who's the teammate that's been the goofball or the comedian in the locker room?
Lo is definitely a big personality. She's super fun, so definitely her.
Let's see. Favorite midfielder, one to play with, and also that you look up to, love watching play. It can be anywhere in world football.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, hard to say. Okay, I'll say Desiree Scott because she's a current teammate, but she's also someone that I've always looked up to, and to actually be able to play with her now. This is so weird, but I love it.
Yeah.
So I'll say Desiree Scott.
He also does the work that most midfielders don't want to do, right? So I'm I would love to play with you, Scott. I didn't want to do any of that work.
Oh yeah, such a hard worker, and she raises my level too. So yeah, she's great.
Yeah, awesome.
Who's the player internationally, men's or women's side, that you're watching play?
I really like Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's incredible, just as a player. So, and plus I'm a Man City fan, so I kind of got to go with someone from them. But yeah, I really like him.
Okay, all right, like it.
How about we can wrap up maybe best goal you've scored or most memorable goal you've scored in your career?
Most memorable goal actually is CONCACAF for U20s, I think 2015, 2016. Oh my god, so 2015. Yeah, and I scored the PK in the round of PKs against Mexico that pushed Canada into the U20 World Cup. So that was pretty cool.
Love it.
Awesome.
Love it. Last one. I got to do this. The last song you sang to in the car.
The last song that I sang to in the car. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I think a Kelly Clarkson song.
Mm. All right. Perfect. I mean, see, I had to get that in there. We needed to know what you listen to. Kelly Clarkson on repeat, sing at the top of your lungs. Victoria
Last week
Pickett.
was Cardi B up.
Felt it. I'm not good by any means, but like I'll sing.
Oh no, no, you don't have to be good. That's why you sing in
Yeah.
your car. You do those things. Victoria, it's been so nice to chat with you. Thanks for sharing us not only on the field stuff, but off the field things. And we can't wait to listen to your podcast and all the great interviews that you're going to have going throughout the season. And best of luck to Kansas City throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Also,
Really
good
appreciate
luck
you
to
guys
you.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, that's it with Victoria Pickett. After this, we're going to be back with Marisa Pilla. She's got her 3 things, and we'll wrap up today's show. See you in just a few. Am I on, Jeff? All right, we're back. This is the best thing. You guys are with us every week. Thanks for sticking around for this last segment. Just waiting on, we're working through some things, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And one of the things we added last week that we got a lot of compliments on is bringing our sideline reporter, Marisa Pilla, into the show to give us these 3 nuggets. This is MP3. Marisa.
Hey. Good to see you too, Jordan. I'm glad you calmed down from last night.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I just got to say, I don't think I've yelled that much in a long time. This is the thing, Marisa. The last time we were in the College Cup, I was there. It was a long time ago. It was at that field. And I just felt like you just don't know when that's going to happen again. So I must do the most I can do.
From the stands, yeah.
It seemed like the people appreciated it.
I appreciated seeing it on social media, so thank you.
Yeah, Lori was doing your duty last night as a sideline reporter, and she got to hear all of it in her ears.
She was probably turning around like, shut up, Jordan.
Yeah. She really was. One time she looked at me and just laughed like, you've got to be kidding me. So, Marisa, so good to see you. Thanks for joining us again. I love that we get to bring you in and you get to share some of your research about what you've done throughout not only this last game over the weekend, but what you've found about players throughout your years working in NWSL. But these first 2 things that we're going to talk about really are with the teams over the weekend that you got to know and you got to talk to them. And one of them is about Victoria Pickett. We just talked to her and she mentioned her tattoo, but you have a little bit more info about it.
Yeah, what a great person to begin with. It's crazy to think that she's just a rookie because she just carries herself so well in this league. And I was excited to talk to Victoria because I'm sure she mentioned in her interview what a devastating knee injury she had back in 2019. It was 5 tears to different ligaments, bone damage. And she told me when that contact happened, she was in training and she, collided with another player, and she looked down and her kneecap was on the outside of her leg. It had and I said, "What do you mean by that?" And she said literally, she looked down and her kneecap was to the right, like pointing outside of her leg. So I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I really thought my knee was just dislocated. She's like, I really thought like, hey, they could pop it back in, I'll be fine. And then of course she found it was such a bigger injury than that. But she said it was just, Jordan, of course, you know how that is to come back from knee injuries and the mental and physical toll it takes. And there was times where she had told me that she didn't know what she wanted to do. She just felt kind of hopeless. And a couple years prior, her mom had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So she was talking to her mom about, how did you find the positivity in moments like this when you're tested so much? And her mom told her that you have to define the situation. You don't let the situation define you. And that is kind of what helped Victoria get through that tough time. And I'm sure she told you she got it tattooed, right here on her inner arm. And it's something that is like a constant reminder of how strong she can be through adversity, and also kind of paying homage to her mom's fight. Because her mom battled that stage 4 breast cancer. And I thought it was such a great story because we always hear about players trying to come back from injury, and it's different for everyone, as you know, and people find strength in different things. And I was excited to tell that story.
Yeah. And she just shared with us, Marisa, just a few minutes ago that she also is now starting a podcast with that same name to tell people stories, which is super cool. I know something
that's awesome.
Just love the storytelling aspect. So she's going to dabble in that and see if she can share some really cool stories along the way. On the other side of things, Amina Ekich for Louisville was going through a really important time to her with Ramadan. And I think it's really awesome to highlight this because you had mentioned you were excited to tell this story because it's not, we do have inclusivity in this league, and it's cool to hear a different perspective of different religious beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't take credit for digging this story. There was a great article out in the Courier Journal that really went into detail. So if you have time to read that, it was amazing. And we as a broadcast were really trying to get this story in. But by the time Ekich checked into the game, it's all about flow. You know how it is with the live broadcast. And we wanted to share this story because, like you said, it is a league of inclusivity. And I believe Ekich's agent believes that Ekich is the only Muslim player in the NWSL. And she observes Ramadan, of course, every year. And she started 3 days before her pro premiere, and then 2 days leading up to her second game. And she had like a bunch of water, a bunch of oatmeal. She really stocked up because, of course, Ramadan you fast until sunset. But she said she's been doing this for about 10 years, since she was 10 years old, and she kind of chooses when to abstain. So she really tried to plan it out, especially because it's so physically demanding what she has to do, that to do it completely on a fasted body is hard. But she tried to do it when it worked with the schedule, like when they weren't training or when they didn't have a game. But there's a great quote in that article too, that she said, the holiday itself, it symbolizes patience and charity and giving back. And for those familiar, with Ramadan, it's a time to reflect. It's a time to realize, what you have in your life and all the good things you have, sort of thing. So it was really special to have that kind of be part of our league.
Yeah, absolutely. And no time like to reflect when you feel hunger pains, and then it reminds you, okay, time to reflect and think about something different and focus on the things that you're passionate about in those moments. So that's a really cool story. Thank you for sharing that. And thanks for linking that article. I love just sharing great writers, as we get to talk to Jeff a lot in this show, but great writers within NWSL and the United States, really, that are continuing to push soccer across their platforms. The last one, I'm going to talk to these two in just a few minutes about some newcomers in NWSL. And we haven't seen Jade Moore yet, but we're going to see her very soon. What do you have on her?
She was so fun to talk to because she offers such a really neat perspective of somebody who is coming into NWSL. Of course, we see players come in every single season, and they all come from, different experiences or past playing experiences. But I mean, Jade Moore has been a fixture in English soccer for over a decade, and she told me, she's like, at a certain point it became tedious to play in that league because she knew everyone so well. She knew the opponents, she knew the teams, she knew the stadiums, she knew everything, where she said, felt like at a certain point, nothing was catching her off guard, and she knew exactly what to expect. And she's like, it felt stale. So she thought, like, let me take this career change at this point in my career when I haven't tried anything new. And she said, and it's really refreshing that at her age, at her experience level, to have those firsts again. First time playing in different stadiums, first times playing against these players, and it refreshes all of that. And she said, I was looking for a fresh challenge. I was looking for something new, and she's found that in the NWSL. And she loves that everything is new. She loves like the travel. She's like, I know the travel's crazy, like going cross country. That to her is like insane. I'm sure a lot of players say that. But she said that has been something she's getting used to. But she's also really excited to see so many different places in this country, because when you think of the markets NWSL is in, it's in a lot of big markets, and it's in medium markets, and it's in places you wouldn't necessarily always go to. She said she's still getting used to like the end-to-end style, but she really thinks that making the switch has really allowed her to enjoy the game again, which is always great to hear, especially someone who's so accomplished as Jade Moore is, that there's always another way to push yourself. There's always something else you can be doing to make things interesting.
Yeah, I love it. You were talking about all these new things. She's probably enjoying that new stadium that they're playing in too. It's not bad digs. Not bad digs. Marisa, it's always so fun. Thanks for taking us on a little journey with all three of those players and sharing the stories that you've acquired over your time. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
All right. Marisa, we'll see you next week. I'm going to bring Jeff and Lori back in because I know we were just talking about Jade Moore, and I'm telling you guys, there's a lot of newcomers and some previous faces that are well known coming back into the league, and I think that we got to talk about these players, right? So let's start with OL Reign. Who wants OL Reign? Lori or Jeff?
Listen, I'll go with OL Reign.
Okay.
Let's not let Jeff talk about that.
Rose Lavelle is coming back, going to be playing with OL Reign. And then Les Sommers from France coming over, playing with OL Reign. Huge pickup for them. We talked about some of the other players that they got a couple weeks ago. But for them, Lori, are these going to be enough? What's exciting about these pieces and how they can fit into OL Reign?
Well, yeah, I don't necessarily know what enough is or what this is going to look like. I think this could go a couple different ways, right? It could really blow up in a wonderful way, and there can be cohesion and continuity in the attack for this team with Les Sommers, Marijan, Fishlock, Megan Rapinoe, Rose Lavelle, right? This could be wonderful, or you could be like, listen, we have a ton of world stars playing on one team and no one knows what each other's doing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's exciting in itself, though, just to not know, right? But to have these signings, to have Rose Lavelle back, I think it's massive. It's massive for the league. And one in particular for Rose Lavelle being over in Man City, not playing a ton of minutes. I think we all expected this for her to be coming back more so than maybe a Sam Mewis. It was a question mark. But I think that gives a different look for Rose Lavelle in terms of her maturity, what that was like to not have played, what that means to her in terms of in a lot of ways, not taking the sport for granted, not that she ever did. I'm just saying it gives you a different look, as I mentioned, a different maturity, right? Going in. And so, but listen, she's dynamic. She's one of the most exciting young players. So it's going to be fun for her to be back. It just depends, as I said, what does this look like? How can they get on the same page quickly once everybody's there?
Yeah, taking a page from Victoria Pickett's book, Define the Situation that just happened to Rose Lavelle. How is she going to use that to enhance her situation here with OL Reign? And I think you're absolutely right. Everyone's hoping that coin flips and it lands with all those players working together, because you have the idea of what that can look like and how ridiculously amazing that can be, and it could add some real freshness and excitement to this league and to that organization as well. You mentioned Sam Mewis coming back as well. She's headed back to North Carolina. Jeff, did you know it was coming?
Yes, at some point we did, right? But I mean, I think there was a little bit of foreshadowing with Federation player status and whatnot. But, I think we've talked about on this show that North Carolina is not, I'm going to say was not the North Carolina of old in the sense of a barnstorming, team to fear at the top. And, we've asked the questions. I've asked the questions a little bit of, how do you replace some of these irreplaceable players? One of a few being Sam Mewis. And, I think we're seeing actually that, particularly with this edition and just what the Courage have sort of been trying to sort out, that, maybe things are a little bit more okay than we thought. And, I think you're still missing half of that midfield or that two in the 4-2-2-2. And obviously you're not getting Dunn back. She's fully gone to Portland, but returning Sam Mewis is a huge, I guess you can use the term game changer in terms of where the Courage kind of what they were shaping up as, what they were looking like, and restoring some of that old piece of the puzzle that, was so successful. I think I'm higher on the Courage now than I was a week ago, based on happenings. So
we don't know where you started, so we're not sure how much higher that is. But I would agree. I think we're all in agreement there that Sam Mewis, really to any squad, but especially that Courage squad where they know her well, she knows the system well, it could be a big benefit to them. Kansas City also added a Portuguese international, Jessica Silva. I had to go to Jen Cooper for this one, you guys, because I said, hey, is this the first Portuguese international that's been signed? And she was like, no, Jordan, come on. She's the third, but still very rare to get a Portuguese player. Should add some good flair there in Kansas City. And then Jeff Louisville, Ebony Salmon, English international going to Louisville. Thoughts on her and how she can help impact this racing team?
Yeah, I think actually fits the style pretty well if you look at how she played with Bristol City, and Bristol City largely a team struggling, obviously relegation. And, I think you look at how she was kind of a bright spot and really just served as an outlet for a team that, speaking somewhat honestly, just didn't have a lot of options. And she was that sort of one option in the counter. And not that it's an exact match of how Louisville plays, in the sense that I don't know that Louisville will struggle as much as Bristol City did in the FAWSL. But I think when you look at the sort of gritty nature of how Louisville is shaping up, they do have some playmakers. We saw Savannah McCaskill this past weekend, but it's still a team that I think is very blue collar, going to dig in, going to find opportunities in transition. And Salmon's the type of player that, is she's still young, that she's not finishing every opportunity per se. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there. But, for having a player that you can just find on an outlet when you're struggling, maybe, I think she'll fit well.
Lori, do you want to talk about Louisville at all? Everyone talked about Louisville, it sounded like, today in this show. But Christy Hawley told us that there was going to be more players coming. He told us that a couple weeks ago. And so here's one of those added players. You don't have to talk about him, but it just did kind of turn into like a lot of Louisville talk, right? Which is good. We hit on two of the new teams in this league after the first weekend of games. Guys, a lot to look forward to with this season. We've seen glimpses. We're seeing new players come in. A lot happening already. And some big games this weekend. Lori, what game are you on?
Ooh, we are on the Cascadia rivalry.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Israel will, they won't be back yet. But still,
Yeah.
I mean, tons of firepower in that game. Should be a good one.
All right. Make sure you guys tune into that game to hear yours truly, Lori Lindsey, calling that one. And always tune into Equalizer Soccer. They've got so much good info there as well. Guys, thanks for joining me. NWSL Live, week 1 of regular season. Check mark. We made it through. I still have a voice. Thank you guys for helping me through this one. It's always fun talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you next week on NWSL Live.